If you've been keeping up with the latest AI code assist technologies, then you're probably familiar with this tool called v0.dev. While v0 can generate code using a lot of languages and frameworks, it's really tuned to create front-end Next.js applications. And if you haven't already, I suggest you take a look at some videos where developers create applications using this tool, and you'll see just how impressive it is. In this video, I'm going to attempt to reproduce the same results using what I call the craft stack, which includes Cursor, the code editor, along with Rails, AI, Flowbyte, and Tailwind. This will be the first video that is part of a series on different strategies for creating applications using AI with Rails and the technologies I mentioned. The first strategy I'm going to be implementing in this video is what I call the all-in strategy, where I'm going to let Cursor, more specifically the composer within Cursor, generate an application from requirements only. We are going to see how close it can get without the iterative approach to code development that I've been using in the past couple videos. In the next video, I will be trying a different approach. It will be design-driven development, where I will take designs and allow AI to build the application from the UI back. And the final video in the series will be domain-driven development, where I will talk to AI about the domain that I'm working in and see if it can generate models and work our way toward the UI. We'll be working from the same product design specification for all three videos. This design specification was generated using ChatGPT 4o. Using the prompt here, can you generate a product design specification in Markdown format for a vehicle maintenance web application optimized for AI assistance in creating designs and generating code? Project constraints and goals are as follows, where I have my technology constraints followed by my goals for the project. The result of running this prompt in ChatGPT 4o was this design specification, outlining the requirements and project constraints for a vehicle maintenance web application. You can see within this file, we have our project constraints, goals and functional requirements, user interface design, technical requirements, testing requirements, and then a constraint summary. Prior to recording this video, I already set up the Rails 8 project, including Rails authentication, Tailwind CSS, SQLite as the database, import maps for JavaScript management, and of course Flowbyte for my components. If you watch my former videos, you know that I've been generating and applying code through the Cursor chat panel. In this video, I'm going to use Cursor Composer, which is a more powerful tool that allows me to generate multiple files at once and to apply them all at the same time. To open Cursor Composer, I press Ctrl and I. Then I can expand it using the icon you see here. First thing I'm going to want to do within the Composer is add the proper files to our context. The first file I'm going to want to add is our design specification. I'm also going to want to add our authentication concern, and I'll be adding some of our models, including current, user, and session. I'm also going to add our application layout file, and our main JavaScript file. And finally, I'm going to add our schema file. Now that I have all the files in the context, I'm going to go ahead and prompt Composer to generate the application. I'm going to say, I would like you to create the application described in the product design specification. I would like the models, controllers, and views. Please work within the rules and constraints outlined for the project. I would also like controller and model tests that validate the requirements outlined in the PDS. Can you help me with this? Then we're going to see what it does. As you can see, Cursor Composer has generated a lot of files as a result of that one prompt. And it's given me a little bit of information behind its decisions and the work that it's done over here. And you can see the files over here on the left. You can see we have some migrations generated for 3 different tables. And also we have some tests generated and then some models generated. And then down here at the bottom on the right hand side in the chat, it says this is the first part of the implementation focusing on models and their tests. Would you like me to continue with the controller's views and their respective tests next? Before I say yes, I want to take a look at all of the files that it generated. You can see here we have our create future services migration. So we have future services table, and it looks like it has a date, a service type, notes, and reminder sent, Boolean, and of course indexes and timestamps. And our second table is the create service histories, and it has a reference to the vehicle model. We have a date, string, description, mileage, and finally the vehicle, which has things like VIN, serial number, model year, brand, model, color, cylinders, displacement, and again, indexes and timestamps. And then we have a couple of tests here that are going to test the future service model, the service history model, and the vehicle model. And it looks like these tests are fairly complete. We may need to tweak them a little bit later, but so far I haven't seen anything that causes me any problems. Our future services model, our service history model, and our vehicle model. Now at this point, I can go ahead and accept all of the changes, or I can accept one change at a time. If I want to accept one change at a time, I just click the accept button here. If I want to accept them all, I can click this button right here. And you can see here, all of the dots become check marks, meaning these files are created. And now I'm just going to go ahead and say, yes, please continue. Okay, Cursor and Composer are finished creating our controllers and our controller tests. As you can see over here, it's pretty neat. It shows you exactly what it's doing, describes each step, and now here it's saying, would you like me to continue with the views next? I'll create them using Tailwind CSS and Flowbyte components as specified in the product design specification. But once again, before I tell it to continue, I'm going to go ahead and come over here and review the controllers and the tests. And you can see once again, we have this green dot here indicating that they haven't been applied yet. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at it. We can start with these tests. And once again, this test looks pretty good to me. We're going to find out if we need to add additional tests as we get working on the project. But so far, I'm pretty impressed. And once again, we have the future services controller, the service histories controller, and the vehicles controller. And now we have the controllers for those. And once again, they look pretty good. They look like a great starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and accept all of those. And then once again, you can see now the green dots have been replaced with check marks. And I'm going to say, please continue. Now it's going to generate our views. All right, Cursor and Composer are done generating our first round of views. You can see over here it says, I'll now create the views using Tailwind, CSS, and Flowbyte components. Let's start with the layouts and shared components. And you can see it creates a flash and nav partial. In addition to that, it's upgrading or updating our application layout file, and now it's creating the vehicle views, which includes an index page and a form page. And then it asks us, would you like me to continue with the service history and future service views next? But once again, before we do that, we're just going to have a quick look at these views. And so far I'm seeing Tailwind and FlowByte classes being applied here. And so I'm pretty enthused about that. I see all of these files over here that is created, and it looks pretty good. And at this point, I want to call out something that I didn't before. When it generated the migrations, this time with Composer, it actually put a timestamp on them. When I was using the chat, it didn't put the timestamp, so I would basically generate the migrations and then copy over the code. So this is kind of a nice little feature when using the Composer. I'm going to go ahead and accept all of these changes and then ask it to continue. Once again, Cursor and Composer are done with the next set of views. And you can see here it says, I will create the necessary stimulus controllers first to address the linter errors, then continue with the service history and future service views. You can see it created two stimulus controllers for us, one called drawer controller, which is kind of cool, and then one called flash controller. So already it's recognized that I'm using stimulus, and it's using or generating stimulus controllers instead of JavaScript directly in the template files. So that's kind of cool. And then it's created our two service history views, and it's asking me if we would like to continue with the future service views next. So I'm going to go ahead and accept the work that it's done. And I'm going to once again say yes. Okay, Cursor is done, and you can see we have three additional view files here. And you see over here it's saying, now I will create future services views, and it created index.html, a form partial, and then show.html.erb. And then it asks us, would you like me to add any additional views or make adjustments to the existing ones? But before I answer that, I'm going to accept all of these changes. At this point, I'm going to tell it no. This looks good. Okay, and it's actually telling me it wants to fix some linter errors, so it's recognized some issues with the code formatting, and it's going to update the stimulus controllers and views. So I'm kind of glad I responded to its last question because it found some issues to fix, even though I didn't ask it to. But I'm okay with that. It's fixing the linter errors, and it's updating the views to use the correct controller names. And so it looks like our flash and our nav partial. And then it's also making some, added some comments here on what it did. It renamed the flash controllers to notification controller, add a proper stimulus controller setup for the sidebar, updating the view data attributes to match the new controller names, adding the proper FlowByte initialization for the drawer and the sidebar. Would you like me to make any other adjustments? At this point, I'm just going to ask it to look over the files one more time and make sure they're complete. So I asked it to look over the files one more time and make sure they're complete and functional. As a result of that question, it actually did quite a few, made quite a few additional changes. Said make sure to update the import map to include FlowByte, which it was already there, so I'm interested to see what it does there. And then it's saying that we need to register stimulus controllers in the application.js file, and made some changes to the sidebar controller and the nav and the routes, and then it created some fixtures for our tests. And then it outlined once again what it did. And now I'm going to go ahead and accept everything. And I think I'm going to stop asking it and see exactly what it is we have. Okay, before I can test this out, I need to run my migrations. I'm going to make sure the router file was updated. And it looks like it was. We have our resources here. And it looks like it set the root of our application at the vehicle's index page. I'm just going to go ahead and start the Rails app and see what we have. Looks like we have an error here. Go ahead and copy this. Come back to cursor. Just going to paste the error and see what it does. So it's giving me a couple of options here. The first solution, it says, is to add a safe navigation check here. And I believe this is on the nav. Yeah, there it is. It's on line 28. And so, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this since it's on the navigation. And then it's saying I could add a conditional, which I don't need to do with that safe navigation. And it's saying that I should check for authentication maybe, or one possibility is to check for authentication before I navigate to this particular controller. But I'm going to go with that simple fix for now and see where we end up. And interesting, so this is a first look at our application. It seems to think we're signed in, and I haven't signed in. I don't even think I have a user, so we can fix that. Vehicle maintenance, looks like we have our dashboard and our vehicle. And in both cases, it looks like it does redirect back to the login if you're not logged in. So I think things are looking pretty good so far. So since I don't have a user and I don't have a registration form for this yet, I'm just going to go back and create a user in the database. I'm just going to say u.email address equals test@test.com. u.password equals password. And that should hash that in the password digest. And then u.save. Then I'm just going to do user.all. And there's our user. So now let's go back and try logging in. Oh, and it looks like user vehicles.order. Undefined method vehicles for instance of user. So let's go ahead and copy this error, go back into cursor. I have this error, can you help? Okay, it looks like our user model is missing the vehicles. And then the inverse. And so let's apply this. And I'm assuming that relationship exists. Yeah, we do have a user ID in the vehicle, so that's good. So let's go back and see what happens now. And Okay, cool. So now we have a list of vehicles and we're missing our template, the vehicle controller new. So before I get any further, I'm just going to close everything up here. It's getting a little bit cramped. I'm going to say vehicle new. Yeah, and I don't believe we have it. Okay. Let's try one more thing. Yeah, we do not have a new form for a vehicle. I did find it a little bit suspicious that when I was generating these files in Composer, that I didn't see any new or edit templates, and this is why we're getting this error. I have a feeling we're going to see the same issue on our service histories and our future service models as well. Yeah, see, they both have the forms, but not the edit or new templates. So I'm going to go ahead and create those now. To the context, I'm going to add the models directory. I'm going to add the controllers just to make sure it has what it needs in its context. I'm going to add the views. I'm going to say, so I say, it looks like you generated the forms for our views, but not the new or edit templates. Can you generate them? Okay, so it looks like it's generated a couple of templates here. It says it's for the vehicles to begin with. So let's apply that one. And then we'll apply the edit for vehicles. And then we'll see what else it says. So it's using the existing form partial that was shown in the code snippet. Okay, but it looks like it still didn't generate them for our other controllers. And I don't think I'm going to prompt for that right away. I think I'm going to test the vehicles and then come back and do that in a second. So let's go back to the browser. Let's refresh this page. And we have add a new vehicle. I'm going to add a vehicle here. I don't see a save button here, which is kind of interesting. Oh, but it looks like it saved it. And then it saved it. It looks like we have an interesting show form here. It gives us kind of a summary of the vehicle. Gives us the edit and the delete vehicle, recent services and upcoming services. So that's kind of cool. Clearly the formatting isn't great. And we'll come back and fix that in a minute. If we go back to our dashboard, then we have our vehicle here, and it includes an edit and a delete button. We click on edit, then we can change the displacement here, hit enter, and it was successfully saved. Let's go ahead and try to add a service record. And once again, we get the missing template. So I'm going to come back here to cursor, and I'm going to ask cursor to generate the new and edit ERB files, templates for service histories. Okay, and it's done. So I'm going to go ahead and apply these changes. And then come back once again to our browser. All right, looks like our form is rendering. Let's go ahead and try and enter in a service history record. And once again, we don't have a submit button. I think it just assumes we're going to hit enter. And I hit enter and it didn't seem to do anything, but let's go back to the service history. Yeah, we have another error here. And so I'm going to go ahead and take and copy this. Come back to cursor, say see what it says about this. So I'm going to go ahead and do what it's asking me to do. Let's apply that first. Leave it down at the bottom for now. And then I'm going to run bundle install. Oops, I'm in the console, so exit the console and then do that again. Then it looks like it wants me to modify or call the config. And looks like it's done with that. And then it wants me to modify the service histories controller. And there we go. And so we have our service history for the Ford Bronco. Going back to the dashboard. Cool, view all, and there's our service history again. And you can add service records. And let's see, let's go back here and let's schedule some service. Of course, we're going to get the same error. We need to go and generate the new and edit templates for the future services. And say, can you create new and edit templates for the future services controller? And hopefully it'll do the same thing. It's just saying they follow the same conventions as our other templates, and they make use of the same form, which is fine. Or I mean, and refresh the page, and there we go for new services. So let's schedule something in the future. For now, you should probably test to make sure it only allows you to schedule in the future. So I clicked our invisible button. I need to go in and clean those up. Back to scheduled services, and this time it did actually save. It's set as pending. I can edit it. Click our invisible button and go back. So it'd be nice. So it would be nice if we saved it, if it rerouted back to this index page for scheduled services, and the same thing with the service history. But again, that's something that I can add. That's not that big of a deal. So it looks like we have a functional application at this point. It does need some cleanup. Obviously, we have some invisible buttons on here that need to be shown. Also, if I remember correctly, this shows our little avatar with the sign out button even when we're not signed in. So we need to change that to a login button. And a few other things I noticed along the way on the dashboard. Or it's not on the dashboard, it's on the show for the vehicle. These buttons are crowded here, so we can fix that. To fix the crowded button problems, I'm actually going to take a screenshot. It's kind of interesting that you can do this. I'm going to go back over and I'm going to paste that in our context. I'm just saying they're crowded. Can you add some space between them? And I did not bring up the right file, so let's see if it can figure out which file this is. And so it is on the wrong page. Let's cancel that. And let's open up the correct file. It's going to be the vehicle show. And let's see if we can apply it here. Okay, it's doing something. Okay, that's interesting. Those are kind of big. I'm not sure that I like that. I'm telling it to put them smaller and put them side by side on the same row. So a little UI refactoring here. So much better. So that looks really good there. So we have that problem taken care of. Now I need to go to some of these specific pages like the edit vehicle page. So let's start with that one. The vehicle form. And let's see our submit here is off. Also wants a space at the end of the file or a blank line. So I'm going to add this, make sure that this is in the context. And so this is the vehicle form. Just going to say it's invisible, white on white. Can you fix this? Let's go back and take a look. Okay, much better. I like that. Let's make this a 4-cylinder downgrade and submit, and it goes back. Nice. So it's going back to our vehicle show. And now let's go to the service record. Let's do the same thing for this one. So this is the service histories. Let's open the file. Okay, we got the future services too. I'm going to see if I can get it to match what they did on the vehicles form. Service histories, let's go ahead and apply that. And let's go with the future form and apply that one. All right, let's go see what we have. Okay, looks good. And back to service history, dashboard, upcoming services. Okay, so the upcoming services. All right, that takes care of that. Add vehicle, looks good. Dashboard, this looks good. Add service record, this looks good. And with that, I've tested everything other than delete. So I'm going to go ahead and start the service history and run the delete. Gives me my, yep, delete is successful. Now I'm going to go back to the Bronco, and yep, service history is gone. This one shows as pending. I'm going to go, oops, looks like I can go to the view all and then delete from there. Delete, yep, and again back to the show. Looks good, and let's delete the vehicle. And our vehicle is gone. Looks like with that, we have a fully functional application, and I have to say I built that pretty quick. I'm pretty impressed with that. I look forward to the next couple of videos to see how that compares to doing a more iterative approach. But this one's honestly going to be pretty tough to beat. There is one other thing that I didn't fix yet, which is adding the login button here if the user is not authenticated, and removing this avatar drop down. But that is a quick change. That'll only take me a couple of seconds actually to make that change. I'm not going to do that on the video. But thank you for watching. If you like the video, please subscribe to my channel and give it a like. And thank you again for watching, and we will see you in the next video.